Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming out once again. Since approximately 1 a.m. on October 19th, representatives from Parkland County, CN, Alberta Environment, Alberta Health Services, RCMP, the Alberta Emergency Management Agency, and various other agencies have been working night and day in response to the train derailment near the hamlet of Gainford. You've been invited here this afternoon for an update on the measures we have taken with respect to the train derailment, as well as the evacuation of the Gainford residents. It is my privilege to introduce the members of our panel today. His Worship, Mayor Rod Chagas, Mayor of Parkland County, Mr. Warren Chandler of CN, the Honourable Minister Diana McQueen, Minister of Environment and Sustainable Resource Development. We also have as guests MLA Ken Lemke and Mr. George Vanderberg, as well as Fire Chief Jim Phelan. They will also be able to provide answers to any questions you may have, which will start at the end of the opening remarks. Please understand that there are some questions regarding certain segments of this incident that cannot be answered at this time. Cause of the accident and status of the investigation. There are other agencies, including RCMP and the Transportation Safety Board, that need to conduct their investigations. Those of us here today are not in a position to share any information in that regard. Our attention today is going to be focused on what transpired from when the derailment occurred and the efforts to return our residents safely home. With that, I'm going to invite Mayor Chagas to speak first.
Thank you, Jackie. As of 1 o'clock today, Parkland County was in hour number 82 of the mandatory evacuation of the residents in the Gainford area. So it was a very happy moment for all of us in the Emergency Operations Center when we learned at that time that we were in the final hour of the evacuation. At 1:30 this afternoon, the mandatory declaration was lifted by Parkland County. I'm just going to pause for a moment so all of us can take that message and allow it to sink in. The residents of Parkland County from around the hamlet of Gainford are on their way home. From the moment the response started, and even while the evacuation of the residents was happening, the primary goal was to return those people home as soon as we possibly could. And as I stated yesterday, considerable human resources were put forward by all agencies involved to allow this to happen. And even when the derailment site was deemed safe, there is still other work that needs to be done. After an event of this size, we simply can't just open the doors and say, welcome home. We had to do surveillance of the area outside the derailment site to ensure that there were no additional hazards or issues that could impact the return of our residents. As soon as the site was safe, we brought Fortis in to evaluate the condition of the power poles from across the derailment site. We were advised by Fortis that 2 poles had to be replaced and we had to make a quick decision. Unfortunately, this meant moving forward without advance warning to anyone in the area, and we apologize for that inconvenience. The power was shut off around 10:30 this morning and was restored by 1:30, and we recognize it was an inconvenience, but again, it was a necessary step to ensure continued access to this important utility. In short, it was important that all agencies did their due diligence to ensure that all factors were considered and addressed before our residents could receive the word that they could go home. Welcoming our residents home is only phase 1 of this recovery process. The highway will remain closed for an undetermined length of time, and this is to facilitate necessary work around the site. As has been expressed throughout this incident, public safety is of paramount concern, and the highway will be reopened when it's deemed safe. I understand there is an unwritten rule in emergency management that incidents like this rarely happen Monday to Friday during the day when all personnel are at work and ready to respond. We were certainly witness to this rule in the early hours of Saturday morning. I can speak confidently that on behalf of Parkland County Council how proud we are of every single individual within our organization and the other participating agencies who acted so quickly and confidently in responding to this emergency. And if you had an opportunity to take a look inside of our Emergency Operations Center, the Incident Site Command Center, and throughout the respective organizations, you'd see a lot of many tired faces. One of them is right beside me here as well. But you'd also see faces of people who are so committed to this organization, to this community, and to the people of Parkland County that they allowed for significant disruption to their personal lives to bring us to this happy conclusion. And there's still more work to be done, but I'd like to take the opportunity to thank each and every person involved. I'd like to thank the federal government for their assistance in this. I'd like to thank the province of Alberta, particularly Minister McQueen, who was on site throughout this event and provided tremendous assistance to Parkland County. And I want to extend my heartfelt thank you for your hard work and commitment. I would ask that the media do recognize and be sensitive to the fact that this is an emotional time for our residents. Many of the residents who were evacuated are returning to their homes for the first time since the incident occurred. Please respect their privacy and allow them the opportunity to resettle and gain a sense of normalcy in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start my remarks by saying how grateful we are to the residents of Gainford, to the Mayor, the Fire Chief of Parkland County, and all of his amazing staff, and how pleased we are that all the residents are now safely returning home. We are grateful to the approximately 126 residents for the patience they've shown over these past 4 days. We know that this accident disrupted their lives for a few days, and we know they are concerned about what they will find when they return to their homes. CN will remediate any damage that was done. Since the very early hours of the morning of Saturday, October 19th, we have worked hand in glove with the county, its leaders, and its amazingly talented staff. The hours have been long under challenging circumstances, but we as a team never lost sight of the prime objective, doing everything needed to get the residents home as soon as it was possible. Today, we have accomplished that goal. Many other agencies were involved, from the Government of Alberta and the Government of Canada, with Alberta Environment playing a very key role. The RCMP, Transport Canada, and the Transportation Safety Board have been here since day one and have been key contributors to the joint decision-making process, and that has guided the comprehensive emergency response to this incident. I also want to thank my CN colleagues who have shown the high level of dedication that they bring to the job every single day. They have worked hard, they have worked safely in this joint response. Now, as we bring the rail line back into service so that we can move our customers' traffic, we will continue our thorough investigation into this incident. We will also support in every way the investigation being carried out by the Transportation Safety Board. I'd just like to finish with a few words about CN's safety record. As hard as we work to make CN safe, and in spite of all the progress that we've made, accidents still happen from time to time. When they do, CN has the ability and the resources to respond promptly and effectively, as we believe we have done over the past 4 days. CN's commitment to delivering safely is unwavering. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being here this afternoon, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to start, first of all, by thanking the residents of Gainford and Parkland County for their patience throughout this entire incident. The safety of the residents is certainly a top priority for Premier Redford and for our government. And we're very grateful that throughout this event there were no injuries, and the safety of the citizens first and foremost, but also the concerns we have for them, just as they do, to be able to be back in their homes, to be able to be back on their farms, to check on their livestock, to check on their pets, which are a very big part of their family. We are happy for that, and we are happy that no incidents of injuries in this case. I want to thank, first and foremost, our local MLAs, MLA Ken Lemke and George Vandenberg, and Parkland County Mayor Rod, for being with me at the site on Saturday and Sunday and throughout this event. I certainly especially want to thank our staff with ESRD. They have just been outstanding, right from our wild firefighters putting out the grass fires, having the helicopters on site as needed, our ACERT staff who've been there right from the start, to the mammal staff, making sure that all of the monitoring on site was there throughout this entire incident. I also want to thank Parkland County and all the emergency responders who have all worked so hard together, and I've never seen such great teamwork and cooperation by so many agencies. And you, Chief, and the entire Parkland County, the entire team that has worked together, thank you very much. And that includes RCMP, everyone, have just done an outstanding job. And I know you've been on site tired days, but I really want to thank all of you for that as well. I'm certainly pleased to report from an environmental perspective that no water bodies were affected, and the air quality certainly remained good throughout the event. Our mammal unit traveled throughout the area to make sure that we were monitoring that air quality for the residents of the area. So we're happy to report, as best of our knowledge right now, there were no environmental issues as it reflected to water bodies or air quality. Thank you very much.
Warren, maybe you could just give us a site update in terms of the cleanup. The residents are returning, but are there still vehicles on the tracks, and how the tracks reopen, and when will they, if they're not?
Sure. Immediately upon receiving approval from the fire chief that the site was safe, residents were allowed to return back to their residences. CN then began a process of our crews deploying to the site to remove the remaining tank cars from the site, as well as begin a process of getting the track rebuilt. And it is our hope that later this evening we'll be able to resume rail service.
So the cars have been removed, and you're just in that repair mode at this point?
That is correct. That is the process that's occurring as we speak.
Are any of them still on fire?
My understanding, there's no tank cars that are on fire at this moment. Fire chief can confirm that.
There's no tank cars on fire at this time.
Well, I was wondering back if you told us that she couldn't go back yet because across from her house there's still one that's on fire. Has it been put out yet?
There are no tank cars that are on fire at this time.
Has everybody been allowed back, or is there some people that can't get back because of too much damage?
No residents have been restricted from going back to their homes. Everyone was given the notice, where the notice was sent out at the same time for every resident to go back to their homes at the same time.
What kind of damage is incurred to houses? Do you know that at all right now?
There was one house that was directly across from the impact site that sustained damage to the vinyl siding and some other damage. That's still under assessment, and there's no dollar loss to be reported at this time. I can tell you, though, that the house is livable, and it's my understanding that the tenants of this rental property will be in the house at some point in time very soon, if they're not already.
Is there any determination yet, or is it still too early, of how much this will cost to clean up and compensation?
It's too early to start to ask those questions. CN will work directly with the residents, and all costs associated with that, CN will honor that, and we'll work with the residents to continue with this process. As for the cost that for CN, it's too early. We don't report individual incident costs. We report that on an annual basis.
What investigations are ongoing now? You mentioned RCMP, TSB. Can you just detail which ones are going on right now?
Well, the Transportation Safety Board is on site conducting their investigation, so I can't comment on how that's proceeding. CN will work in cooperation with them, and CN will conduct its own internal investigation as well.
Why were the RCMP mentioned in the opening remarks there? Are they investigating too?
No, the RCMP were mentioned for their role that they've played in this incident and our appreciation for the role that they've played.
Like for crowd control, like for roadblocks and that kind of thing?
Yeah, RCMP have been crucial and critical in this situation.
You talked about a safety issue opening Highway 16. What is that remaining safety issue?
I didn't speak to the safety issue.
We received notification from the Alberta Transportation, that is the governing body for the highway. They have determined that they're not comfortable opening the highway at this time, and they would prefer to wait. There's just too many things going on in the area, and they want to be sure of public safety before they reopen the highway.
So what does that mean for access to the community then? Do you have to go around and
The
back?
detours will still be in place for Highway 16. For the residents, they will be allowed through where it's safe and appropriate, but not along Highway 16.
Warren, I just want to confirm, did you say rail traffic is expected to resume tonight after repairs are made?
It is our intention to have railway operations resuming later on this evening into tonight.
We saw a plume of black smoke this afternoon. Was that sort of the final gasp of filling the tank with water and the propane? What was that all about?
Anytime there's an operation of this significant applicants, there's always final mop-up procedures. So in order to ensure, from our perspective, that the site is safe to bring the residents back to occupy their community, we had to ensure that every last drop of LPG was burnt up, and so the site was 100% safe to do that. So any wisps of black smoke that you see on and off today and this afternoon was the procedure to do just that.
If you're getting rail traffic, presuming this evening, the track survived this pretty well, and we saw some big fireballs there. How much damage was done to the track here?
Well, again, the analysis that was done when the cars were removed, crews went in immediately to begin repairing the track, make sure it adheres to Transport Canada and CN's rigorous standards that we had, and then it'll be closely inspected prior to any trains proceeding through.
How big is the team, the CN team, working on repairs and all that?
I don't have the exact number. I can tell you, though, there's dozens and dozens of CN employees that are on site rigorously working at the site as we speak to ensure that it's cleared safely as well, and to allow our rail operations to proceed safely.
Can we speak at all how the Sunday night, how the controlled burn was lit, how that whole process went about?
Sure. What specifically is your
Well, we
question?
were just curious how it was going to be lit, because we were told that nobody was allowed within that mile zone, and then there's that big fireball. So we're just curious, how did this controlled burn go about for people placing charges on the tanks, or I don't know how it worked?
Right, I think if you recall when I spoke Saturday night, is that the best procedure to deal with this type of product, liquefied petroleum gas, is to flare it. If you put the fire out, the liquid petroleum gas is heavier in air and it just goes everywhere you don't want it to go. So as long as it's on fire, you know where it is and it's safe. So the procedure that was employed by the technicians that were on scene was to speed up the consumption of this liquefied petroleum gas, and that was to punch some bigger holes in the tank and accelerate the burning process, the flaring process. So having said that, there's technical procedures to do that under strict safety guidelines and regulations, and that's what we did. That's what we said we were going to do Saturday night, and that's what we continue to do until the last bit of smoke went away this afternoon.
Chief Feeling, we're in rural Alberta. This is a huge operation. What's it been like for your fire crews to be working on something of this magnitude?
Our fire crews are volunteer firefighters, and as any volunteer firefighter serving their individual communities anywhere in the world, these individuals are super dedicated individuals, and they step up and they take care of their community. And our firefighters are no different. Our firefighters came to the call, did what was asked of them without complaint, and are continuing to service the community and are on the scene as we speak right now. So they have done an outstanding job, and as a fire chief in Parkland County, I couldn't be prouder of their actions and their dedication and their service. And I know that the residents are very, very tired and pleased to get back home. And I can assure you that our firefighters will be very, very pleased when they are able to get back home as well.
How do you know that the track is safe if it's still being investigated? Presumably, the track condition will be part of that investigation, wouldn't it? Like, how do you know that? How can you be sure that the track is safe?
When we go in to rebuild the track and resume rail service, it'll be inspected prior to any rail operations that resume. The investigation that's being looked into the incident, those factors are going to be done in conjunction simultaneously to the track being rebuilt, but the best people to speak to on their investigation will be the Transportation Safety Board directly.
We'll allow for 2 more questions.
Just clarifying, you said there's no tank cars left on the scene now? Like, they've all been removed?
No, we said they're being removed off the site where they currently sit.
So they're off to the side or something like that?
Did Mr. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for coming out today.